Hello, welcome back, or welcome to See What Sticks. We have now combined with Hollywood Casting and Film to do the same podcast, but redistribute with Hollywood Casting and Film. I'm your host, Russell.
I'm Arianna.
And I am Max.
Perfect. So this definitely isn't the second time we're recording this because of technical issues, because we're on Zoom, which we'll get into in a minute. But for all of the new listeners, hi. This is a podcast that we do. And for all the old listeners, yeah, we've changed a little bit because of COVID. And we're on Zoom. And we have matching backgrounds. And we've taken a little bit of professionalism, which I think will go a long way. So we have a new member, obviously. Max, introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Max. I went to UW Green Bay. And after I graduated, I got this internship at Hollywood Casting and Film. And that's where that's where I met Russell and Arianna, and here we are.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a little bit of different format. Episodes are going to be slightly shorter now. And along with our shorter episodes, we're going to be interviewing Hollywood professionals ranging from writers, cinematographers, directors, producers that we're also going to be working with our studio. So it'll be a good way to showcase their work to our listeners. And it's a good way for our listeners to kind of get involved in the filmmaking process and kind of what it looks like to be on the inside and hear the perspective of making movies from people who work in studios and kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that's important because a lot of people have, I think, false impressions of what working for a studio is like. And I think they think it's one thing based on TV and news and shows like 30 Rock. And I think we can all say it's a little bit different, and maybe for better or worse. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, 30 Rock really didn't show you what a dark week looks like.
Yeah. What about you, Max?
I really don't have much experience working on big sets. So all of my filmmaking experience has been little independent stuff, pretty much by myself in school. I would have some friends helping me, but otherwise, this is the start of my true filmmaking experience, I guess.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I think it's cool to have people on a show ranging from people who are new and then us who are like new-ish, I guess, and then people who are really experienced and been in the industry for years and years and hearing the different takes, because I think everyone has a different perspective on it and everyone has a different kind of experience in the industry where you've been on good sets, you've been on bad, and kind of what we're doing is to change that up and try to make every set a good set the first time, where it is a smaller, close-knit community, and I think it'll be fun. So because of coronavirus, we haven't uploaded in a while, and now we're different. So for those of you who are seeing it like that, hi, we're different now. And before we had a technical issue, we were talking a little bit about what we think the film industry is going to look like after this whole COVID thing ends. So let's get back into that conversation.
Well, what I said before is really that this is just unprecedented, that the world hasn't experienced this sort of thing in my lifetime, and the film industry hasn't experienced it just because it hasn't been around long enough, really. Mm-hmm. And so people really don't know how things are going to change. And the same thing is happening with schools and with sporting events with no audience stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's all unprecedented.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see people adapting to it. I mean, it's of course an awful situation where we've lost a lot of people, but it's interesting to see how businesses and companies are changing in some ways for the better, and understanding that, people can work from home and how valuable certain people are. And the unfortunate side is that because this virus has limited us to our houses, that people who I would consider very valuable have been laid off. And I think that's wrong. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of those positions being shifted, which, depending on who you ask, could be good or bad. But I think, as Arianna said the last time, this is like a new birth of indie filmmaking.
And I also think it's going to be changing the genres that people go into.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think right now you're not really going to see that many romantic comedies happen or just any romance movies because people are still very much concerned for the virus. And I
Yeah.
think once they figure out a vaccine, then they can go back into that genre. Or they might go into, like, I guess the old High School Musical route where you can have a romantic comedy without showing anything like kissing or anything.
That's
Just go
true.
back to the preteen movies.
I've actually never seen High School Musical. I was around in the 2000s and everything. It was just never my demographic. Just it never really appealed to me. But I am aware of it because of pop culture. And I did not know there's no kissing in that movie. I would have thought there would be.
It's like the second film. That's like I think the only kiss that they had, and it's like at the very end.
Is it with Zac Efron?
It is.
Sick. What a stud. But so one other thing that we were touching on before is the idea of digitally bringing people back. And is that weird? And will it get worse or not worse? I mean, the technology is going to get better, but will it affect actors? Because I was watching one of those videos, the like the CGI artist react ones in Terminator, the most recent Terminator one. I don't know what it's called. It's the newest Terminator. There was the John Connor and Sarah Connor scene, and John Connor was completely digitally remade. That kid wasn't even on set. It was just a ping pong ball and a stick, and they put a kid in. And I didn't know that was fake. It looks real enough that no one, you know what I mean? You wouldn't ever guess. And when someone tells you, you're like, okay, yeah, I guess I can see that. But even with Peter Cushing in Rogue One, that was pretty close. I mean, there's a little bit like his skin is too smooth, but like it's pretty damn close. So do you think this is a dangerous road to go down?
Yeah, I think people have mixed feelings about it because it's cool to see dead actors or aged actors in roles that you would have liked to seen them in before, or like if you haven't seen enough of them, like with Peter Cushing, he was only in the one movie. So for Star Wars fans, it's cool to see that characters show up more than once. But from an actor's standpoint, they're kind of they could be on, like what you were saying before, was they're completely, just like with John Connor, they're just completely creating a person with VFX. So that could start eliminating jobs where they don't even have to show up to do acting.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, and it's always kind of like the joke, right? My parents are in the medical field, like they're doctors, and it's my joke where it's like, well, your job's going to be replaced by robots before mine. That might not be the case anymore. Where it's like you have that joke with like family members who you're close with, which is a little bit of a scary joke going into our world. However, it's that kind of thing where, yeah, robots are getting better, and you're like, whew, at least my industry's safe. Guess not.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
I feel like it works more for animation. Like I know Toy Story did it with, I believe it was Toy Story 3 and one of the characters. He passed away before they actually started it. So what they did was they had enough footage. So they went back and got all of his got his whole voice from previous films and outtakes. And they just digitally put them all together and made a whole film out of it.
Yeah, that was it Mr. Potato Head or Slinky? It was one of them, right?
Yeah.
Or
I
was
think
it
it was,
Rex?
I don't think it was Rex.
no, Rex isn't. I don't think he's gone. I think it was Slinky. I think it was because Don Rickles, is that his name, Mr. Potato Head?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't died yet.
No,
But
yeah.
he was pretty close after that the movie came out.
See,
Yeah.
I knew it was one of the characters, and I'd heard about that, where they did that. And I think that's cool, and especially because it's a children's film, and it's an integral kind of supporting character that people love. I think in something like that, if you reach out to the estate of the actor, I think there's something fine with that. Like Peter Cushing's family was like, yeah, you can put him in Rogue One, but we have to look through all the lines, and like we have to be very certain to what you're going to do, what he's going to look like, and everything like that. And I think in that kind of case, it's cool. And like Carrie Fisher for the most recent Star Wars movie, love it or hate it, they brought her back with like old footage and a few CGI scenes. And I know Carrie Fisher's daughter was on set because she's in the movie, Billy Lord. And I think that's fine, but the whole thing with James Dean, why does he need to be in that movie? Like, that's my biggest question. Like, I get bring back Tupac for a concert or whatever, but James Dean for an entire film where you're taking the role from another talented actor, I think that's wrong.
I think like that, it's just purely experimental to see, probably to gauge audience reaction, to see what kind of uproar it kicks up, and to see if it'll work.
That's true. I think, yeah, seeing if it'll work is a big thing, because if it totally works, that you almost don't want it to work. You want it to be bad, because if it works, they're like, sweet, now let's bring back everyone. And I think there's something kind of fun to that in a way. Like, you could have like a sequel to like the original Ocean's 11 or something, or sequel to like some old movie where a lot of the cast has passed away, or like a sequel to Wizard of Oz. Like, that'd be kind of cool in this weird alternate reality. However, I think maybe we should make new movies and new ideas and not do that.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking, like with the Heath Ledger incident.
Yeah.
When Dark Knight came out and his character was hugely popular, and then all of a sudden he died. This could be like hey, we just kind of fixed that situation where if the studio wants to make more movies and make more money, and they could easily do that if they brought Heath Ledger's Joker back.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's one of the dangers, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think there should be some sort of like rule or some sort of clause where like you can't use this technology unless the actor filming in the movie died during the filming. So it's like a special use case. It's like break in case of emergency kind of thing, because otherwise you're going to be like, you know what? Let's bring Heath Ledger back. Let's bring this person back. Let's bring that person back. And I think it should only be used very sparingly. Because then people are just going to lose faith in movies. It's kind of like how people were hyped. I know some people love it, like the new Lion King. Why'd you have to make them real lions?
I just like the baby animals. That's about it.
I think it's cute, but there's nothing. It's like if I was watching Lady and the Tramp, which I know they did, but it's my two dogs, I'd be like,
I feel like seeing like animals anywhere is adorable, so that's why people are hopping on the bandwagon. Like if they redid 101 Dalmatians with live Dalmatians, I would 100% go watch it.
Yeah, but those Dalmatians don't talk. It's just like Cruella de Vil being a monster, right?
Yeah,
like
they had like the dogs, like for Lady and the Tramp, like they would just like stand there and you would hear the voice, or like sometimes the dog would open its mouth, like a yawn or something, and then that's when like the voice would come out too.
See, I guess I can see both sides of it. Max, what do you think about like the animal thing, just like animals?
Well, for me, it goes kind of bigger. I really don't. I guess I don't understand the whole remaking live action Disney movies, because either it's going to be exactly the same as the original, which is then it's kind of like, what's the point? Or they're going to change something and then it's going to ruin it for me because of my stubborn nostalgia.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, hey, this isn't in the original. Why would you do this?
Yeah. I think the only ones, I think it's one of those things, it has to be deserving of it. So I think if we're going to go Disney originals, let's talk Disney original ones. So it's like Pocahontas, Sleeping Beauty,
Little Mermaid,
Snow White, like Dumbo, which is real depressing and has racist crows. So I don't know why they remade that one. But there's like those. And I think some of those are deserving. Like the ones that I'd like to see a live action are Hercules. That would be super cool. I think Hercules, Mulan, because it's also, yeah, I'm excited for that because also it's from a cultural like tale. I think that one works, same as Hercules, because it's off of a mythology. So if you do it justice with the right actors, I think that can work.
Yeah, and I'll just say, if Danny DeVito was not in that live-action Hercules,
as the
fawn, I'll watch it, but I will be mad.
Yeah, I think with something like that, it's important to like kind of give it a new spin. But the one with Aladdin, apparently it was really good. However, one of the biggest issues with it was this whole thing of, it was miscast. It was this whole issue.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back through the magic of editing. That was cut out. So let's continue. So we're talking about Aladdin.
Yes.
And how I think they botched it. Yeah. Have you guys seen Aladdin?
I have not.
I did.
I've seen it as well.
Will Smith's was carbon copy, word for word, from Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
They gave Jasmine a song.
I think that's cool.
Yeah. And what else? And they added in a new character that people really weren't fond of.
Yeah, they added in a friend.
Okay.
And they added the prince who came to marry Jasmine too from the beginning. So they added a couple more. They gave Will Smith's the genie a wife and kids.
Yeah. Have you all seen Spaceballs?
Yeah.
Yep.
Prince Valium. That's who that character is. They literally added in Prince Valium to into Aladdin. I'm not kidding. That as soon as he came on stage, I'm like, yeah, that's what that is. You know what? Speaking of Spaceballs, that needs another one. They need to do Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money.
Such a good film.
See,
the issue is that Rick Moranis is retired.
I know. Well, he's coming back for one thing. There's one movie coming back. Cool. I think it's for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids 3 or something. He's coming back.
Because he wasn't in the new Ghostbusters either, and they had all the originals. Yeah. Even Harold Ramis was in it.
Yeah. See, like, something like that with, like, such a great character actor like Rick Moranis, you need to. Did you know he looked exactly like the drummer from the band Fun? And the guy from Bleachers? They look identical. Like, everyone watching this, look that up. Rick Moranis and the lead singer of Bleachers, he's also the drummer from the band Fun. They are spitting image. It's ridiculous. The total aside, but I think it's interesting, especially because in 2008 there was the writer's strike. Yeah. That's what gave way to reality television blowing up. Was the fact that reality television doesn't really need in-depth writing, because you kind of just record a thing and sort of give them an idea of, you guys are going to fight over this new Rolex. I don't know, but I think that's a big thing that has come up.
I'm not a fan of reality TV, because like that, where I get the appeal where there's no writing really, but it's the way that it works, the way that it's successful is that you put a bunch of ridiculous people together, and then it's entertaining because they all fight or they all fall in love or something.
Yeah. And here's the question. This is in our last 10 minutes of the episode that I'm going to wage before I'm going to go back to Arianna's point from the beginning that I've been thinking about and trying to come up with a good response to is this: a yes or no. Would you go on a reality television show about working at a film studio?
Yes. I think yes.
Absolutely. I think it'd be so much fun.
I love reality TV. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I love drama, especially other people's drama, just not my own drama. But it's so mindless. You sit there and like, you'll watch like 90 Day Fiance. You can sit there and be like, girl, what are you doing? You should not be getting engaged to this man. Yeah. But then you see it unfold and you're like, I told you from the beginning and now you're not doing it.
Yeah, it's like Olsveg doesn't even love you. He just wants to come to America. Don't listen to Olsveg. Like, I've watched probably 5.
You're rooting for people. Like, you see these two people and you're like, oh, I love you guys. You have to make it. Like, actually be real.
Yeah, that's what people think about Max and myself. They're like, you guys got to make it. You guys got it. And but the thing you said earlier that I want to hit on in our last point is new genres in Hollywood. And because of the whole COVID thing, I think movies like The Man from Earth, which is like a sci-fi with no VFX, are going to get huge. Like these ideas that it's like a high concept film where it's like, what if you were in a room with someone who's never died? like that kind of concept of like sci-fi, but you don't need any effects. It's just a thought experiment, kind of like Black Mirror. That's going to blow up.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Well, it's like Christopher Nolan, his sci-fi movies, he really tries to use practical effects as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
So I think it'll become even more of a novelty and more of a challenge. People will keep stretching the limit of what they can do with practical effects.
Definitely. I agree. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that helps people like us who work at a studio, but I mean, can't pull out all the stops to be like Transformer time. Like you can't do that. And I think it's going to serve movies better. And it's like that thing in film school, right? They tell you, give yourself a handicap, take something away from your filmmaking process, like take away the idea of like dialogue or take away the idea of something, and then you get more creative on how to display a point. I think this whole thing will do that for everyone. So I think we're going to see like a new wave of films that are like the pre-COVID movies and then the post-COVID movies. And I think in the long, like people going to film school in 20 years from now or 30 years from now, that's what they're going to see.
Hoping there's more original films.
Yeah, I was going to say, agreeing with that point, hopefully there's more like a creative boom where you don't have to rely on the millions of dollars from a studio or the army of VFX people.
Yeah, I hope that's where we're going. And I mean, not that VFX are bad. VFX are super cool. They're important. They can bring like this made up world to life. I mean, my favorite film of all time is Lord of the Rings. It's a VFX like show, but it's VFX augmenting something that's really there. And that's why that movie 20 years later still looks like a movie that came out last year, because they did it the right way. And I just pray for the film industry that we can like come out of this being like, here's how we do this now. And I think like you're going to see way more things like the movie Drive, like small, low budget kind of action, but it's a movie you don't forget.
Yeah. A lot less movies with multiple characters. You'll have maybe like 4 main characters.
Yeah, I could see that. And I think it'll be interesting. And of course, there's always going to be book adaptations, comic adaptations, stuff like that. It's going to be interesting to see what people adapt now, and things that people 6 months ago would have been like, that's dumb, that'll never work. And now they're like, I have an idea. It's the exact same thing.
Well, it's like Contagion. You know, when the coronavirus started, that movie was hugely popular again. And everyone's going through it and looking, what could we have done, or what should they have done differently that we could do?
Yeah. And I think that's going to be big. And then, not to touch on this subject too much, but especially now with a lot of the light being shined on like the political and social imbalances in the US, I think we're going to see movies with a lot more diversity. And I think we're going to see movies that are more socially conscious. And socially conscious, not in like a look at us, we're doing this, but it's just, it changed. There's going to be, it's kind of like if you watch Lawrence of Arabia, they put Sir Alec Guinness in brownface. Like, what are you thinking? We're going to see, it's things like that we maybe today didn't think was wrong, or maybe we're just so used to it that now that will never happen again. And we'll look back and be like, oh, isn't that weird they did that? It's one of those things. I think that's going to change.
Yeah. Hoping there's big change in the industry once people get out there and start making films again. And
and one point, I think one point that was really interesting, I was listening to an interview over this COVID break with the lead singer of the Strokes, Julian Casablancas, and he said they're in music, and I think movies are kind of going the same way, where people confuse creative validation with monetary success. I think more than not, being creatively validated, being creatively like there is so much more important than getting paid, because the biggest budget movies usually aren't the most creative. And I think in music, we can see that with like indie bands and artists kind of blowing up, but somehow in film, like indie films never really hit that same stride. And I think that's going to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, up until now, that equalizer has kind of been time, you know, where you get the cult classics, because then people watch it 20 years later and say, that's a really good idea. It's a really good movie. and all of a sudden it's super popular again, but it didn't make that much money when it was initially released.
Exactly. And I mean, I think a really good example of that, which is one of my favorites, is Galaxy Quest. Something like that, which is like so weird and out there and didn't do amazing, has become a cult classic. Or things like Borat, Love It or Hate It. That movie is filmed for no money. I think things like that are going to explode again.
Yeah.
And I hope that on the other side of this, we see more weird creative stuff, and we see things kind of going the way of how I don't want to say lower end, how things in the less pop side of media, like in film, get big. Like where there's bands like that people love in music that aren't winning the Grammy for blank, blank, or blank, but people love. And I think in movies, there's a disconnect. And I think that's going to change for the better. And studios like ours that are fairly big have made quite a few things. People start seeing them for what they're worth in a good way.
And what they're making.
And yeah, what they're making and how creative people can be when given a limitation. And I think people are going to start thinking outside the box more.
Yeah.
I have hope. I have hope for this, that we'll come out of this better. Also, we don't have to shake anyone's hand anymore, which is good because I'm super awkward and weird, and I don't ever know how to shake hands. I'm like, do I go first? Do you go second? Do you squeeze early? No, we can just fist bump or elbow bump. I'm great.
The other good thing about the indie film, I guess, explosion that might and hopefully happen is that it'll spread just by location. You know, just like how Hollywood casting film is spreading to the Midwest, just like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hollywood is going to move out of Hollywood now. But in our last minute, thank you so much for listening to our first episode of See What Sticks, the Hollywood Casting Film Edition. I'm Russell.
I'm Arianna.
And I'm Max.
We look forward to seeing you next week, and have a good time.